wave, everybody is optimistic that the demand what we saw got crushed because of because of regional lockdowns could make a comeback. If one looks at the auto dispatch numbers, the auto dispatch numbers actually started showing signs of plateauing out even before the second wave started. So what is the ground reality? Will discounts come back? Will commodity prices have impact on pricing? Because bear in mind, in last 12 months, most of the auto companies, given what's happened to steel, plastic, and other rubber prices, they've increased their underlying car and product prices as well. So let's take that conversation forward with Neeraj Thakkar, and we've got Chinmay Bafna to talk about what the clear trends in the auto industry are. Neeraj, what is your understanding on how much of demand has got crushed and how much of the auto demand has only got delayed, which is that it's just moved from 1 month to another month and the demand will come back?
Hi, good morning. So as of now, we have yet not opened up our showrooms, so we are not in a position to tell that how much demand is crushed. But whatever data that we are working and the sales executives are working from home is, the inquiries have come down drastically. So we are not seeing any demand as of now. So that I think it's a right now we think it's a crushed demand that I see right now.
Chinmay, there are two ways to look at the auto demand. One, it gets delayed, and second, it gets crushed. So I'm asking you the same question which I asked Neeraj, which is that has the demand got crushed or has the demand only got delayed, or it has only moved forward from 1 month to another month?
So I'll tell you, Adish, so both of us are in Bombay, right? And obviously we were the first ones to bear the brunt of the lockdowns and seeing that go forward. But however, I mean, we are present across brands which are, more on the, not on the discretionary spend. There are people who need them, like the scooters and motorcycles in the 100 to 125cc. So what you're going to see in Bombay, what we saw last year as well, is that, wherever there's a huge demand or huge use of public transport, which has been shut over the last 12 months, there were a lot of restrictions on public transport. So people were forced to buy a vehicle to go to work. So on the lower end of the spectrum, so cars below 7 lakh rupees and motorcycles which are affordable, cheap to use, which are easy to maintain or perceived to be easy to maintain, those demands were through the roof. So in December, if you see, or November last year, we were all on having 6 to 8 weeks waiting for any customer who walked into the showroom. So I would say that demand is going to go up because a lot of people who have were using, say, public transport or were using shared cab services, they're going to be forced to buy motor vehicles, and the cheapest thing to buy would be a scooter or a motorcycle of 100 to 125cc. The only unfortunate part is Bajaj is not very, very strong in the 100cc segment. So they are more strong on, the 150 to 250cc segment. And that's more of a discretionary purchase kind of a thing. So that will obviously go down. So I think from Neeraj's angle, he might be seeing the demand crushing, but we're still managing to do 50% of our volumes by home deliveries and so on and so forth, and that's similar to what I'm seeing talking to other dealers and getting their feedback. So even now we're at 50% of the volume. So I would not say there's a delay. There's going to be an amp up in sales in the next 3 or 4 months. So especially in Bombay, you're going to see volumes bounce back much more than what you've seen ever before.
Chinmay, with your ears to the ground, while I know you're largely dominated in cities like Mumbai, but even in the rural parts of Maharashtra, or for that matter in the rest of the country as well, the second wave has gotten impacted and these areas have been vulnerable. What is your own sense on how badly sales has gotten hit in the rural parts of the country or Maharashtra?
So, a key factor, which I think investors should look at, is companies which have their own finance companies, see almost 80% or 90% of two-wheelers in rural areas are sold on finance. So whichever companies have their own in-house financing, they'll be an advantage. So I think Hero is poised to do very, very well because they're not dependent on, say, a bank or an NBFC, because they have their own NBFC to, sort of pull things up for them. So as long as that is available, also the government has said that, this year they're expecting a very good rainfall, and that's a big mover for rural sales. So I don't think there's going to be an impact on volumes. Only possibly the only issue is, because a lot of the auto companies require oxygen, or their suppliers require oxygen. So that might be a challenge. And also, if you see manufacturers compared to last year versus this year, they've managed to increase their prices by between say 17% to 25%. And that has not impacted sales. So, and I would see going forward, steel prices have come down almost 15% from their all-time highs. So looking at the commodity cycle taking a U-turn now, I think manufacturers will have the ability to give sort of discounts and things like that and push up sales. So honestly, I don't think there's going to be much of an impact on the sales. I would see that sales going back. In fact, almost all the auto companies, especially in the two-wheeler in that 100 to 125cc segment, they're going to do very, very well. So I don't see any issues going forward in the next 3 months. Obviously, if there's another third wave and things like that, those can impact. But otherwise, demand is pretty rock solid from where we are seeing things,
Sure. Chinmay, the other factor this time around has been commodity inflation. While most companies have actually passed it on to consumers, how is it that you see that impacting sentiment and sales going forward?
So, see, there's been a 20%, worldwide, if you see, India has the cheapest two-wheelers in the world. And it was an anomaly. Even vehicles sold, if you look at any of the numbers, like, for example, Bajaj, they make almost 70 to 80% of their gross profits from exports, not from their domestic sales. So India, because of the competition and them being locally here, we were able to get products at phenomenally cheap prices. And I think that has been reversed to some extent. But again, the value proposition of a two-wheeler is way too high compared to a motor car. So I don't think there's going to be much of an impact. And see, even in November, December, Jan, Feb, we were all sitting on waitings on most of the models. In fact, you would see Maruti constantly saying that, we have, on average, a vehicle will take 8 to 12 weeks. Similarly, on scooters, we had a lot of demand because scooters are fairly easier to use compared to motorcycles and without having gears. And, there was a more appeal to it. And I think scooter demand is going to grow quite a bit going forward. So I don't think the commodity price will be a big issue. And also I see it going the other way. So if you see iron prices were at 230 at the all-time high right now 2 months ago, and now they're at 170. So China's also started cracking down a lot on the commodity traders. So that's helped in pushing down the prices also to a great extent. So I would see the commodity cycle going reverse, and manufacturers, I have never known them to reduce prices. So I would see them probably giving discounts and offers to, push up sales if there is a small demand lull, which I don't expect. So I think auto manufacturers will have twin benefits. One, a demand upsurge because people can't use public transport. And secondly, they will see the commodity prices come down. So that would increase their margins. So I've never known manufacturers in almost 20 years or 5 decades of my family's experience to reduce prices unless the government has reduced the taxes.
Okay. Neeraj, let me get your take as well in terms of, the kind of trends you see as things normalize, whether it be with respect to exports, whether it be segment-wise in the domestic market. Where do you see the opportunity to really inch back towards those pre-COVID levels?
So for Bajaj, as Chinmay said, our 70 to 80% of the business is from export for the Bajaj Auto. So export in these times also is doing fairly good for Bajaj. So that should not be a problem going forward. The demand will only increase for the export. With respect to the domestic sale for Bajaj goes, now as Chinmay said, mostly the bikes which are in demand is from 100 to 125cc. And Bajaj in Mumbai, the strong point for Bajaj is mostly 150cc and above. So as and when the lockdown reopens and we go back again to normal, I also see the demand will for sure increase for the premium segment bikes, and the NBFC, the business, the finance, and everything with offices working and the I mean once the office restarts and everyone will need the mode of communication. That way, I see the demand for the premium two-wheelers will increase in due course of time.
Okay, so you do see a growing trend of premiumization there as well. Okay. What about EV adoption? I just want to get your take on that, because there are some reports that suggest increasing adoption, of course, over the next few years. What's your sense in terms of the acceleration of that trend?
So I'll take that question. So with respect to the EV adoption, I mean, the companies are moving from the regular petrol vehicles to electric vehicles. And Bajaj has launched Chetak, which is right now available in Pune and Bangalore market. The demand was so high that the waiting period for Chetak electric vehicle was around 1 year. So I see slowly but gradually companies will move from the regular petrol engine to an electric vehicle. And I see demand increasing, but that would be a very slow and gradual process. It would not be an overnight process.
Go back to that same point once again, which is that the COVID crisis has taught us two things. One, think before you spend if you are doing a discretionary purchase, but you need to buy right now when it comes to a compulsive purchase. The fact that public transport may not be the preferred mode of transport, everybody now is worried about third wave, nobody wants to use a public transport, it's evident. How much of that compulsion is going to be the driving factor for going forward as well? Do you think a lot of compulsive purchases are still left, or we are done with it?
So I'll just give you a little bit color. I mean, using example, we used to have certain colors that don't sell at our dealerships. You know, something like probably like a magenta red or some offbeat, you know, dark gray color, which isn't too popular, or a green color. What we're seeing now is customers are saying that, listen, just give us any color. We need a bike in 7 days because we need something to, you know, pick up the groceries. We need a vehicle to go to the doctor if necessary. We need a vehicle to, you know, if he's a delivery guy, he needs a vehicle. So they're like, just give us anything what is available. And also we're seeing a lot of replacement demand come through. So a lot of people who had, like, you know, you had 4 people staying in a family and they had 1 scooter. Now they want to replace that scooter and buy 2 scooters because they find 1 is not sufficient enough, because 1 person in the family could use public transport if necessary, but now that option isn't there. So they want, you know, 2 vehicles in their house. And also, if you see Bombay, the unfortunate part is that a lot of people stay in slums, or they stay in places where they don't have, you know, a motor car parking. So even if they can afford a car, they can't essentially keep a car. They don't have parking. So a 2-wheeler is the easiest and most preferred method of transport. So I would say that almost all of the buying would be compulsive, and I would see till December or March 20. So say December, end of this year, or the next 6 to 9 months is going to be a very, very good time for any auto company into you know, the lower segment or the segment which is sort of essential. It's going to be a very, very good time for them.
So closing comments. I'll keep this question open. Neeraj, Chinmay, anybody can pick it up. What happens to the luxury end of the market? I mean, frankly, for me, the success story in last 5 years has not been Hero MotoCorp or Bajaj Auto. It's been Eicher. The way how Indians started buying RE and the fact that per capita income went higher. RE was the first one to bounce back also when I looked at last year's data. What happens to that high-end motor biking experiential market? Anybody can answer this.
So I'll take this one. We are also dealers for Eicher Motors, the trucks, but I have a fair bit of insight into how Royal Enfield works. So as a brand, they've done extremely well. They've sort of inculcated a cult, and they've also increased their merchandise sales and everything. So a person feels that when he buys a Royal Enfield, he sort of upgraded his status in life. I've seen people on their Facebook profile change their name from Chinmay Bafna to Royal Chinmay Bafna. So they actually add a Royal before their name. So that is how good their cult following is. And the only thing with RE, which I find a challenge to be a big thing. So they had a golden run for the last almost 15 years, from the time they launched an electric start on their bike from 2006 to probably 2020. Now what has happened is that in the 350cc segment that they are in, there's going to be a lot of competition coming through. So Hero is launching a bike with Hero Harley in a 350cc segment, single cylinder, which will compete with Royal Enfield. So I think that's going to be a major challenge for them. And Hero has a fantastic distribution network. Similarly, where you're going to see the Honda CB350 doing extremely well. The only problem is Honda has chosen to sell those vehicles through very few dealerships. So they don't have a very wide distribution network. Even now, I think that...
You've given me a... Chinmay, what you've spoken about Royal Enfield, where people change the name on Facebook and they add Royal. Yeah. I'm sure Siddharth Lal, when we'll send him this recording, he'll be very happy to see that what kind of cult he's created. But do you know anybody who also changes the name when they buy Hero Honda? I mean, Hero is also a good prefix to have on the Facebook if you buy a Honda bike.
Yeah, I know. But unfortunately, Hero has it's a reliable name. It's like when you want water, you want Bisleri. But, even if you go on the road, you buy Aquafina or this thing, you will say, "Mereko Bisleri chahiye." So Hero is like that. Like even Honda's done that with the Activa. Like a person doesn't say, "Mereko scooter chahiye," "Mereko Activa chahiye." So I think that's there. But with Royal Enfield, if they are able to launch more motorcycles, so if you see last year what they did very well, when Honda launched the CB350, they launched the Meteor. So that sort of covered up the volume drop if any was there. So unless they come out with more and more motorcycles, I think their volumes are going to take a hit. And I'm sure the Hero Harley thing will create a dent, especially for the first 6 or 12 months. Then it depends, how good the product is, how good the service is and things like that. But for 6 or 12 months, they're really going to face a lot of competition, I feel, with the Hero Harley. And that'll be the first time they'll have somebody really fighting neck and neck. And long term, I don't know what TVS's plans are with Norton. So that can also be something that can affect them. Though they managed to, keep Java at bay, but Java sort of, killed themselves. They had a very good launch, very good this thing, but the products were just, having extremely poor quality. Half the dealers have shut down already, and they had major issues in the entire process of, manufacturing the motorcycle. But I think Royal Enfield is going to have a tough time going forward for the next 12 months once Hero launches their bikes.
Gentlemen, great to have you both, Neeraj as well as Chinmay, and good insights as always.
All right. Thank you. Take care.